Shall we begin? The last couple of weeks I have directed your attention to thoughts about the secret place. 2 weeks ago we addressed Psalms 91, which for most people is the most famous reference to the secret place. And for those of you that have chosen to look in the Bible for the term secret place, it also can be interchangeable with hiding place and several other places. And we looked at Psalms 91, and that seems to be the most familiar passage that if I will dwell in the secret place, I will live under the shadow of the Almighty. And that's a poor paraphrase. I'm not always good at direct quotes, but and that week we looked at it, we addressed the fact that was David writing. And David was writing a conversation that he had with his son. The first verse, he says, this is what I've learned, the secret place. And the second verse, Solomon says, oh yeah, I'm going to do that. And then because David probably didn't necessarily trust his son to carry on, he said, well, let me reinforce that, and went through several verses and let me tell you what I've experienced by living in the secret place. It's living in the secret place that David experienced angels being given charge over him, 1,000 falling at one side, 10,000 at another, and on and on and on. And David began to share his experiences of what happens when you live in the secret place. And then the last few verses, God chimes in and says, and I will do that for you, Solomon. Well, I know that God is not a respecter of persons, so if he'll do it for Solomon, he'll do it for me. Okay? And so, but the key phrase here, the key thing was to live or dwell in the secret place. It is interesting to me, and as I've been studying this, I begin to look and I see that most of the references about the secret place seem to always directly get back towards David. David was a man after God's own heart, and David continually had references to the secret place and references to what God was doing. And while certainly David messed up, anybody here ever messed up before? While David messed up, God still said he's a man after my own heart. And so that gave me a little bit of hope, so that if I mess up, I know that I can come running back to God. Last week we looked at and discussed going to the secret place. Jesus said, I want you to go to the secret place. And we looked at and found out in Psalms 139 that the secret place is where we were created. To be honest with you, up until a week or two ago, it had never dawned on me. I never read it. I read it and just never saw it. And the secret place is the place of our creation. And so if we need help, we need repair, we need whatever, we go back into the secret place and we return to the secret place. Sometimes we just need to go back to where it all began. And sometimes we need to go back to the altar. And sometimes we just need to go back to the secret place. So today, we're still on the secret place. So what are we going to talk about on the secret place? As of yet, you notice that I have not told you how to get to the secret place. I keep referring to the secret place, and my hope is that somehow, some way, I'm going to create this big desire that I want to run to the secret place, and then finally, when you're so pumped up and ready to go, then I'll tell you how to get here. And I thought I might do that today, and then I have thought about Psalms 27, where David declares and explains that we're pavilion, we're being in the secret place like living in the pavilion. There's some neat, cool things there. And I looked at a variety of different things. I looked how David worshiped and set up the tent of worship and all these things. I got all this stuff running through my head. And to be honest with you, I was perplexed. Which am I supposed to do? Because there's at least 3 or 4 sermons and all that stuff there. Which am I supposed to do? And so I was unsettled all week long, waiting for God to tell me which. And when he finally told me which, it was none of the above. Luke, the 17th chapter, is where we will direct ourselves. And today I want to address the urgency of returning to the secret place, and the urgency of the secret place. Luke, the 17th chapter, 2 verses 26 and 27. If you have those and you're able to stand for the reading of God's Word today, we would appreciate that. Luke, chapter 17, verses 26 and 27. Discussing the time near his return to earth, Jesus declared, As it was in the days of Noah, so will also be in the days of the Son of Man. They ate, they drank, they married wives, they were given in marriage until the day that Noah entered the ark and the flood came and destroyed them all. Lord, today, make this word come alive in our hearts and our lives. Lord, impact us for the kingdom. Draw us closer to you. Lord, give us a hunger and a sense of urgency to go to the secret place so that we can accomplish all that you want us to accomplish. And everybody in agreement said, amen. Thank you for standing in honor of the word. You may be seated. As I was praying and seeking God and trying to get His mind, because after all, it's His mind that we need, right? I came across a phrase or a statement by somebody on Facebook. His name is David Marks. Don't know him, still don't know him. He wrote on a friend of mine's Facebook, and he said that our generation is witnessing the development of technologies and an alignment of nations that are alluded to in the Bible. And I don't know if you paid attention or not, but just a few weeks ago, maybe just this last week, there is a company in Wisconsin that is now planning to implant computer chips in their employees as a way of them logging into the computers. How many of you get tired of every 3 months your bank telling you got to change your login? And after a while, you forget which one it is, and then you can't even get into your own bank account to find out how broke you are, you know. And so, they're saying that we're going to have this chip, and they can scan, they can even buy from the cafe on site. They can scan their hand, money automatically. The technology's there. And for the record, that is not the mark of the beast. It is just the technology that probably the mark of the beast will use. Okay? Because somebody takes a computer chip under those circumstances does not mean they've sold out to the mark of the beast, but it sure means they're probably trying to do it at a later time. Because the mark of the beast has to take place after the rapture. I'm still here. The rapture hasn't taken place yet. You're still here. The rapture hasn't taken place yet. Russia has established a 50-year base in Syria. And the computer technology and the production market gives even the signs of Noah's day before the flood are witness against this generation, indifferent, violent, and lawless. He said, I believe we're very close to the Lord's return. It's time to awaken, not to wait, but to serve, share Christ, pray, and fulfill God's calling for our lives. We live in a different time for sure than any we've ever lived in before. There are some people who would be afraid and who would be scared and who would be nervous about the things that are taking place, but I would suggest to you that we are privileged to live in the time that I believe will usher in the return of Jesus Christ. With that privilege comes some responsibility. Because you see, I think that He has positioned us, and God knew all along when He was going to do what He was going to do, and He positioned us at such a time as this so that you and I could be a part of His last days revival. Stop and think about that. God is trusting us. Ooh, why would He do that? Sometimes you just got to wonder, okay? But God apparently knows what He's doing. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So I'm believing that God knows what He's doing. But in the last days, He said there's going to be a great revival. And we are positioned to be a part of that great revival. We're positioned to be ones that God will use to bring about the last days revival. While some are worried and scared about all the stuff, and you see some of the chatter about the Wisconsin microchip plant and people going and flipping out and going crazy and all that kind of stuff. Can I just tell you that God's still God and He's still in charge? Amen. Can I just go ahead and reiterate that God is God and He's still in charge? And so what I envision is this, that God has given us a unique opportunity to be used of Him in the last days. However, as this happens and we look around, Jesus was pointing out about the last days as it was in the days of Noah. What was happening in the days of Noah? They were living life like nothing was going to change or end or whatever. Hello? We got people around us living like there's always a tomorrow and living like there's nothing to worry about. And Jesus was saying that, they weren't at least a bit concerned about the warnings. I mean, stop and think about this. Noah preached to them for about 120 years. He warned them and told them, there's going to come this flood. What's a flood? They didn't know. But he told them that God's judgment was coming for 120 years. And they ignored him, much like we speak and we share and people ignore us. But it didn't change Noah's perspective, and it didn't change what he was doing. As a matter of fact, just let me tell you this. We often associate God's rewards with what we accomplish. Can I just tell you that God has a different standard than we do? His standard is faithfulness. That's all it is. Noah wasn't accountable for everybody who turned him down. He was only accountable to share and speak and preach. As a matter of fact, Noah found his name listed in the Hall of Faith in the book of Hebrews. What happened? He just kept preaching no matter what anybody's response was. Our job is to keep preaching, keep living, keep sharing, and keep doing, and God takes care of any increase. So here is Noah going around, and Jesus said it's going to be just like it was in Noah's day. Hell, Noah's day. Let's see. Evil. This was just a few hundred years after the righteous sacrifice of Abel. How can a world change so much in such a little bit of time, a relatively little time? As a matter of fact, in Genesis 6:5, as J.C. just mentioned, that the heart was evil continually. That's all they were was evil. That's all they thought about was evil. That's all they wanted to do was evil. As a matter of fact, just let me tell you this. God was so fed up with it, he said, why would I even have created these people? What did I do? You know what it says? It grieved you. But yet in the midst of all of that, the Bible says that Noah found favor in the eyes of the Lord. Noah is described in 2 Peter as a preacher of righteousness. It's been years warning, but no one listened. And we live in those same days right now. Evil reproduced and overtook the world. God looked at it, and I guess he decided it's time to start over. So he did. Took Noah a little over 100 years to complete the ark. For all this time, God waited patiently. They didn't believe the thing Noah said, and they were content with their wickedness and idolatry. Their hearts were hard, their ears were dull, no one repented, and no one even cared to seek God. And Jesus said the world's going to be much like this. There was a time when just about everybody went to church. Remember those days? Not only did we go Sunday morning, we went to Sunday night, we did it Wednesday night, we did it all. Jesus said in the last days, it's going to be just like it was in Noah's days. In fact, Paul, in writing to Timothy, let me read you some things that Paul said was going to develop, just to add to it. Mark this. There will be terrible times in the last days. Stop me if you think this maybe sounds familiar, or don't stop now, I'm going to keep reading, but wave a hand or something. People will be lovers of themselves, lovers of money, boastful, proud, abusive, disobedient to their parents, ungrateful, unholy, without love, unforgiving, slanderous, without self-control, brutal, not lovers of the good, treacherous, rash, conceited, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God. If you really want to understand the days that Noah lived in, you could probably just turn on the evening news and you can see some of the same. the spirit of lawlessness that is prevailing and the chaos. And this, let me tell you this, when Jesus was talking about the end days, if you go back to Matthew, he was talking about the persecution of the righteous. Can I just tell you that our media only shows us what they want us to see? Did I just tell you that? No secret there. And for the most part, other than a few outlets, for the most part, we don't even see the evil that's in this world. We don't see the persecution of Christians unless you subscribe to the Voice of the Martyrs or something such as that. We don't see the persecution that's taking place, and we're living this isolated life because the media, or if I probably shouldn't say this, but it's never stopped me before, so. Satan is using the media. He is the prince of the power of the air. Okay? He controls the media. Doesn't mean that God can't use bits and pieces, and God does, but Satan has control of the media, and so he is trying to paint us a picture different than what's really there. He doesn't want us to see the persecution that's taking place. He doesn't want us to see, if you will, the urgency of the times in which we live. I said to you that my focus today was on the urgency of returning to the secret place, and the urgency of going into the secret place. And I'm doing all of this as kind of an introduction and to let us know that the times in which we live are some terrible times, and the times in which we live are the times that are setting the table for the return of Jesus. And I want to tell you that instead of the church going in hiding, sticking our head in the sand or under the sand or under what, instead of the church hiding and saying, oh no, we need to embrace the opportunity that is before us. There are conversations that are already being taken place in businesses. Just out of curiosity, those of you that work at a job, have anybody heard anybody at your job mention about the microchip in Wisconsin? Anybody hear any of that at your job? Some have. Yeah. Why? Because it's in the news. What is happening? We're being conditioned to accept that as an inevitable. It's okay. As a matter of fact, let me tell you, here's what happens. It goes on there, and Christians get all up in arms and say, this is the mark of the beast. And when it doesn't happen, we mess up our witness. Hello? Because sometimes we think we got to have something to say. Hello? Sometimes we think we got to have an answer. And we should have an answer. But it needs to be an accurate answer. A few years ago, there was some bombing taking place, and people were going on saying, oh, this is it, because in the Bible it says that Syria is going to be wiped out, and blah, 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 blah. And many of you may remember the next Sunday morning I said, this ain't it. Because there's some other things that have to take place before that happens. But Christians have a little knowledge sometimes, and a little knowledge can be a dangerous thing. And we take a little bit of knowledge, and we get all up in arms, and we get all emotional and passionate. Hey, and I'm glad that Christians are emotional and passionate. But what I'm telling you today is that what we need more than anything else is the urgency is that we need to go into the secret place where we can get a hold of God and we can find out God's viewpoint on everything that's taking place. And when we come out of the secret place, then we can speak to what is going on around us. You probably won't believe this, but I have been known at times to be a loudmouth. I have even been known at times to express an opinion or two. I have even been called opinionated, which doesn't bother me because opinionated is not bad when you're right. And I remember as a youth pastor, some lady came into the office and was saying this, this, and this, and that, and so guess who addressed it. That would be me. There have been times in my ministry that pastors that I have worked for cringed every time I opened my mouth. I don't understand that. And when she left and I had said what I had said and did what I had did, the pastor pulled me aside. He said, "Now you know, Mike, that you don't always have to respond." Well, she asked a question. You don't always have to give an answer right now. Really? Wow. What a novel idea. He said, you know, you're dealing with church people. And how can they say you're wrong if you say, you know what, that's something to think about, let me pray about that. I never thought about praying about stuff, I just would answer. You know, and he said, they can't get mad at you for saying, I think I need to pray about that before I respond. Because if they do, then they give them away as what they are. And I think sometimes we as Christians, instead of responding all the time, that we need to take ourselves and run to the secret place and get a hold of God. And see, we listened last Sunday, we talked about how the healing that takes place in the secret place. And God wants to heal us, and we go to the secret place for healing. But I also want you to know that as we read Psalms 139, it said He has written a book. We talked about that last Sunday. And in that book, He's got it all planned out, exactly what we need to do and what we don't need to do, and what His plan for our life is. And I'm suggesting to us today that in light of the circumstances around about us, in light of what's happening in this world today, in light of people who have no concept of who God is, that we as believers need to go more and more to the secret place like never before and get alone with God, so that when we walk out, the things that we say are not my flippant opinion, but rather they are the opinion of God Himself. That when I walk out of the secret place, I'm saying, here's what God told me. As a matter of fact, let me give you a little background. Jesus said everything that He said what? With permission from the Father. Everything He said is stuff that He had heard from the Father. What was Jesus known for? Going to the secret place. Spending time with the Father. I know that we're supposed to have the answers for the world. But the answer is Jesus. There's an urgency that we need to go to the secret place like never before. As the world around us goes spiraling crazier and crazier, there's such an urgency that we need go into the secret place and hear the voice of God, so that when we walk out, we're doing as Jesus said, I'm only doing what I've received from my Father. The more time I spend in the secret place, the more convinced I am that the secret place is the best place to be. It's in the secret place that we not only hear the voice of God, but we understand better what His plan for our life is. And as He told Jeremiah, before you even formed, I had a plan for you. That Willard, before you were even formed, 39 years ago, God had a plan for your life. This morning I saw Stephanie praying with Pat. Just a month ago I saw Pat praying with Stephanie. See, that's what the kingdom does. It brings us all together. And each of us has a part and a plan and a purpose by God Himself for what we're supposed to be and do. And if I want to find out what that is, I keep going to the secret place. And if there's ever a time that we've got to go to the secret place, it's now. May I just suggest to you that God is preparing opportunities for us to share Him. Many of you have mentioned that people that you work with or were around and talked about the microchip. They've seen the news, and they see the spirit of lawlessness that's prevailing in our nation, which is a drop in the bucket of what's prevailing around the world. As I have studied more and more about the secret place, and this has been kind of eye-opening for me, I'm learning more and more, and I'm becoming convinced that the more time we spend in the secret place, the healthier we are, the more blessed we are, the more anointed we are. See, I read that Psalms 91 that says that if I would dwell, live there, inhabit, abide in the secret place, that I would be able to live under the shadow of the Almighty. And I think sometimes we flippantly quote stuff, don't we sometimes? We just quote stuff and not even necessarily know exactly all the parameters involved. It's a good quote. I mean, who doesn't want to say, and He'll give His angels charge over thee? That's cool, that's neat. But where does that come from? That same chapter 91. And that doesn't happen until we've learned to dwell, live in, abide in God Himself. We want to quote that He'll give His angels charge over me without understanding the implication that's involved. And we don't get the angels to give charge over us until we learn to live and dwell in the secret place. And as I look at that, and He says, I'm going to live under the shadow of the Almighty. It was the children of Israel that lived under the shadow of the Almighty. Well, they was walking around in the wilderness, and for 18 years, 40 years, their shoes never wore out. They never got sick. They never had any problems. So I'm becoming more and more convinced that the more time we spend in the secret place, the healthier we're going to be. Our shoes will last longer. And all around us, the world is going chaotic and going crazy. And they are looking for answers. You have people around you that are looking for answers. And what does this mean? And what's going to happen? And what's next? And I'm going to suggest to you that probably they will never ask me that question because they know you and not me. Okay? Satan has brought sickness upon the world. It's from Satan. It's not from God. It's from Satan. And we see and hear more and more strains of sickness, difficulties than ever before. Because Satan continues to unleash his onslaught. Perhaps it's the news, and the availability of news that we see stuff that we've never seen before. I think it's more because Satan is fighting harder and harder than ever before, because the Bible says he realizes his days are numbered. May I suggest to you that if you make a choice to go into the secret place, that when you come out, you better be ready for the fight. Because Satan's going to find out if you really mean it or not. Pastor, I thought you were supposed to encourage us. No, I'm supposed to tell you the truth. I'm supposed to equip you for what's going to take place. You make a choice to go to the secret place, you better get ready because all hell's going to break loose. Because Satan doesn't want you going there. And if you come out of the secret place and he raises his ugly head and you bow down and back up, then he knows he's got you. But if you walk out of the secret place, say, not today, devil, nor tomorrow. You walk out of the secret place clothed in the power of God. I think it's interesting, the reference I referred to earlier about the prayer and fasting and prayer time and about those that the followers of Jesus that try to cast out demons and were unsuccessful. What did the demons say? We don't know you. We know Jesus. We know Paul. We don't know you. See, I want the devil to know who I am. I want him to know who I am. I want him to be so paranoid that when I wake up, the devil starts getting nervous. I have developed the habit of waking up early. Terrible habit. This morning it was 3:15. That was before breakfast, by the way. I mean, I didn't have breakfast. Okay. And I have decided, I actually kind of like waking up at 3 o'clock. Because I found that is the most awesome prayer time of the day. And let me tell you why I found that out, or why I think that. 3 o'clock is known as the witching hour. It's when Satan and his kingdom release more stuff and do more stuff than any other time. Why is that? Because Satan's a counterfeiter. He counterfeits everything that God does. And it was 3 in the afternoon when Jesus was crucified. And so when Jesus was crucified, he released all this power and all this magnitude and all this glory for us as believers. So Satan has to counterfeit it, so he goes the other way, and at 3 o'clock in the morning, that's his hour. Pastor, I've never heard that before. It doesn't change anything, it's still the way it is. Okay? And so, if the 3 to 4 o'clock time is the time that Satan is working harder than any other time and releasing more stuff, I thought that what a great time to be awake, so I could stop him. Oh, Pastor, what are you saying? I'm saying I can stop him. I'm saying you can stop him. Now, you don't have to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning, but if you have to be up, that's a great time, because that's when he's working and plotting and planning. And I want us to understand that when we have been to the secret place and we come out of the secret place, we come out clothed with a supernatural power and ability, and if you will, even a supernatural understanding of what is taking place. Because in the secret place, he's outlined for us, look, I got this book, and here's what I want you to do today, and here's what I want you to do tomorrow, and here's what's going to happen in your life. And when you come out of that secret place, I want you to understand that you come out empowered by God to deal with the things that are going on in the earth around us. And all around us there is stuff that's happening that need an answer from God. I know the other sermon would have been better, but this is the one that God said. There's got to be an urgency. We got to realize that God has given us an opportunity, and there's a limited amount of time that's available to us, and we as a church, we as a believer, can't play games. Can't play games. Satan is relying on the church to become complacent, comatose, asleep, dead, any and all of the above. Because there is one organism in this world that can totally undermine and wipe out Satan. That's the Church of Jesus Christ and the believers that make it up. He's calling us to the secret place. He's calling us to like never before. I'm pausing for effect. Actually, I'm pausing to figure out what I'm going to say next. I don't know what I can say or do that would cause us to want to run to the secret place. Because I've come to the conclusion that I can't make you do anything. Or if I could, some of you would be doing some things different. All I can do is just tell you what's available. All I can do is tell you the urgency that we need to go to the secret place. The world in which we live, the world that Noah lived in, is ignoring, by and large, the church. There are times we can't even tell us apart from the world. Pastor, we need to see more miracles. Yeah, we do. Those come from the secret place. Pastor, we need you to do this. Yeah, I understand that. We need to go to the secret place like never before. I need to spend more time in the secret place than I've ever spent in my life. And I'm working on that. I've even missed a few meals over it. I'm serious now. Wouldn't it be awesome to have people walk in and the power and the presence of God be so real? They walk through the door and they drop to their knees just in repentance. Just so you know that day's coming. That day's coming. I've been preaching since I was 18. That was years ago. And twice in that period of time, I've seen people run to an altar. No altar call even be given. Actually, 3 times. Twice in a regular church setting and once at Brownsville Revival. No altar call was given. People were seeking God, and I didn't even know what the secret place was anymore. People were just seeking God and worshiping and coming before Him. And as they did, they began to free up the Holy Spirit to begin to move. And people who were sitting in the audience that were not even saved felt the power of God in such a real way that they came to the altar. Well, that was then, this is now. What if we went to the secret place on a regular basis? What if we came to church? Didn't have to be prodded or led into the presence of God, but we walked through the door because we'd already been in the secret place. And we walked through the door full of the presence of God. See, I've decided this is not just recently, I decided this a long time ago, but I'm understanding more and more how it works now. I've decided everywhere I'm going to go, I'm going to create an atmosphere of the presence of God. That's what I'm going to do. Well, what do you mean, Pastor? I mean that I want so much of God in my life that if I show up anywhere, that people that are sinners are going to feel uncomfortable. People that are sinning are going to feel uncomfortable. They may not know what they're feeling, but all of a sudden they're going to feel uncomfortable and feel like they can't do what they're doing. I want to be so full of God that I can be confused with Peter. Peter, Acts chapter 5, walking down the street, had so much of the presence of God in his life that when his shadow fell on people, they were healed. And I'm discovering I can pray till I'm blue in the face. I can fast till I'm 120 pounds. I know, it hadn't happened yet. I can pray, and I can fast, and I can do all kinds of things, but if I do those things without going to the secret place, then I'm just doing stuff. Did you know you can fast and have no spiritual impact whatsoever? We call it dieting. And I think oftentimes fasting for Christians is nothing more than a new elaborate diet. What if that illustration I heard on the other night? Your head's buried in water. You're gagging. You can't breathe because you got all this water around you. And when you raise your head up, the only thing you want to do is breathe air. What if I get so close to God and I come in that all I want to do is just breathe Him? What if I decide that I want His presence so real in my life that everywhere I go I change the atmosphere? So what if next Sunday everybody walks in out of the secret place and we walk in already full of God? Sure would make worship a lot easier. Sure would make preaching a lot easier. Matter of fact, I would suggest to you that when we get to that place, and we're going to get to that place, it may start out with just a few, but as time goes on, more and more we're going to realize the secrets of the secret place, and we're going to begin the process of getting alone with God so that when we walk out of that prayer closet, we walk out of that place, we walk out of the secret place. He showed us in the book what our plan is for the day, and here's what I'm going to do, and here's the plans I have for you, Mike, and this is what you're going to do, and here's what's going to take place. You have kids, grandkids, cousins, aunts, brothers, sisters, whatever. You have relatives that need you in the secret place. They need you in the secret place. Sitting in a hospital room in Houston, Pat found out that she was there to be strength for Josh and Amy. I wanted to be strength for Pat. Secret place. Does anybody know the term promised land living? Better for it. When you were delivered and set free, the objective by God for you was that you could live in the promised land. That was His objective. That was His plan. Children of Israel got released from their bondage. The chains fell. And God's plan for their life was that they would live in the promised land. And He brought them to the promised land, and they allowed a few giants to scare them off. So they wandered for 40 years in the wilderness. In the wilderness, they would set up camp, and they would set up their tents. And Moses had his tent, his tabernacle. If you was to read somewhere around the 33rd chapter of Exodus, saying in my notes, but the thoughts coming to my mind, somewhere about the 33rd chapter of Exodus, it says that when Moses got up and began to walk to the tabernacle, began to walk to the tent, everybody stood at their tent door and watched, because they knew that when Moses went into the tabernacle, the fire of God was going to fall on that tabernacle, and they would know that Moses was in the presence of God. Wouldn't it be awesome if we began to pray that people around us knew, oh man, Ramona's fixing to pray, she's going to the secret place, the power of God is going to fall. But that's not the thought. Let me expand it a little bit more. With Moses was also Joshua. The Bible says they went in together. If you continue reading, since I don't have it in front of me, I will paraphrase it. If you continue reading, you will find that after a period of time that Moses got up and left the tabernacle. He left the tent. If you will let me be so blunt, he walked away from the very manifest presence of God. Then you read, it says, but Joshua lingered. But Joshua stayed right there. Joshua refused to leave the manifest presence of God. Now, fast forward, if you will. What if we chose to stay in the secret place? Well, Pastor, I can't always be in the secret place. I want to suggest to you that we can. I want to suggest to you it's a mindset. I want to suggest to you it's a thing where we say, you know what? I may have to be at work today, but while I'm at work, I can still be in the presence of God. I can still have His voice speaking to me. I can still have Him outlining what it is He needs me to do. And I want to suggest to you that Moses left the manifest presence of God, and guess what? Moses never saw the promised land. Boy, he saw it from a distance, never entered. But Joshua, the one who lingered in the presence of God, was the one who crossed over and went into the promised land. And I'm going to suggest to you that like never before, we need to go into the secret place like never before. Not only for those around us who have questions and are looking for answers and are looking for somebody with the power of God in their life, but also so that you and I can walk and live in the promised land. Because you see, the secret places where the manifest presence of God dwells. I want the manifest presence of God to dwell in me. Anybody heard of this guy called Indiana Jones? You know, he's been looking for that ark. He ain't never gonna find it. He's looking in the wrong place. He's looking for the wrong thing. He's looking for a box covered in gold. That's not the manifest presence of God anymore. You and I are the Ark of the Covenant. You and I are the place where the manifest presence of God dwells. You and I are the place where His fire comes down upon us. The reason Indiana Jones ain't going to find it because he ain't looking in the right place. He wants to see the manifest presence of God. He wants to see the Ark of the Covenant. Look around. I'm going to suggest to you that there's never before been a time that we need to seek His presence and come into the secret place like we have right now for us. An opportunity. God created this opportunity for us. He put me here at this time. Go figure. He could have put me here at any time. He could have put you here at any time, but He chose this time so that you and I could be here while God is working and moving. He's looking for us to go do what we're supposed to do, step into the secret place hear His plan for our life, and walk out and live it. That's it. I can't make you feel an urgency. I hope the Holy Spirit can. I can't force you to do it. I wish I could. See, right now I'm focused on getting me there. I'm focused on me being there. And I just got to tell you, there are times that it's hard to get there. Anybody ever have to be around people? Don't they just mess you up sometimes? Yeah. See, I gotta decide I want the presence of God so real in my life that I can ignore the stuff around me and seek out the secret place. Because once I've been in the secret place, and I can deal with the people around me, and I can deal with the stuff around me, and I can deal with all the issues. I met Eli this morning and told him I was the old guy, the old school guy. So, if it's all right with Eli, can we do something old school now? You might as well say yes if I'm going to. He figured that out, I think. I think sometimes we focus so much on being a house of worship, a house of preaching, and a house of whatever else there is, that we've forgotten the mandate that Jesus said. He said, my house will be called a house of prayer. That's His mandate, not mine. That's what He said. And back in the day, Eli, I don't know if you know this or not, back in the day, people actually prayed in church. Go figure. Back in the day, when the service was over with, it said if everybody ran out as fast they could to get to the restaurant before everybody else, we would actually take time, as Joshua did, just to linger in the presence of God. I'm not so naive enough to believe that spending 5 minutes praying in an altar is going to set you up in the secret place for life. But don't you be so naive to believe that it's not going to get you started in that direction. Every journey begins with the first step. So Wanda comes to the piano. My belief today is that God has placed us here. There's others that should have been here, they weren't. He can't do nothing about them. For those that are watching on YouTube, I'm going to encourage you, find a place right now just to pray and see God. Talk to Him. Reacquaint yourself with Him as necessary. Say, Lord, I want to have that intimate relationship with You. I want to go to that secret place. I want to go to that place where I can feel Your presence, where I can get wisdom and guidance and direction for the day, so that I can be all that You want me to be. Father, today, only Your Holy Spirit can bring us to a place of urgency. Only Your Holy Spirit can come alive in us and cause us to find the urgency to pray and seek Your face. So, Lord, today, move in our lives. Not just today, but begin something today that we release and allow You to continually move in our life. Father, I release Your word. I release Your Holy Spirit. Come alive in us. That we give You praise and glory. Amen.